Rock and roll, daddy. What is going on, Bob Squad? It's me, Bob, the commander of the Bob Squad. How's it hanging? What do you say? What do you know? Tip the veal, try the waitress. How's tricks? How's the kids? Some weather we're having. Keeping up with the Joneses, rubbing elbows, greasing palms, movers, shakers, trendsetters, go-getters, gypsies, tramps, and thieves. Squeezing out lemons, stopping on a dime, baby. Don't know where we're going, but we are making good time. How the hell are you, crazy cats? Talking about Survivor Series 2 days late. I haven't done many of the hardest part of the ring. We have slowed down in the last month. I haven't been finishing Raw and SmackDown. That's what's happening. I'm just not. The show's just not interesting. I find other stuff I want to watch and other stuff I want to do. And I think I've made a lot of the same points. So I'm going to continue on my goal. I'm going to try to stay more SmackDown focused and do the big shows. And what bigger show in November than Survivor Series? So we're going to talk about it. I won't be ordering any AEW pay-per-views for the foreseeable future. I got my own reasons for that. Will I go into them later? You probably could guess. So that's the way it's going to go. We're talking about the 2022 Survivor Series 35 years ago. I don't know if it was to the day, I forget. But 35 years ago was the first Survivor Series in 1987. And that was the end of that. So we've done a bunch of them since. And I would love to relive as many Survivor Series memories as I can without talking about Montreal in 97 because I'm sick to death of that conversation. Okay. Hope I never hear anyone on a podcast talk about Montreal in 97 ever again. So let's move on. I didn't see any of the pre-show. So did they have a match? Who knows? I think they probably just talked. They did a lot of yapping, flapping their gums, twiddling their thumbs, spinning their wheels, whistling Dixie, waxing philosophicals, shooting a shit, and chewing a fat daddy. We'll do the theme song at the end. Yeah, it feels good to chat with you about wrestling just for a little bit. It's been a minute. The women's War Games was first. This was expected. We knew the men War Games would be last. And they have the two War Games matches and they separate them okie dokie. So we have the two rings. If you're not familiar, the two 20x20 rings are next to each other. There are two rings in the arena. It's been no secret that Triple H really loves the War Games match. So he brought it back, but it has the WWE rules, or the NXT rules, I guess, that have carried over. So the rules are you ready? Teams of 5 strive to survive, but they really don't. What happens is, there are two teams of 5, and they one member from each team gets into the ring, and there is a giant double cage surrounding the double ring. Okay, double cage surrounds the double ring. So one member from each team starts off, and earlier in the weeks they've had matches to determine which team gets the advantage. So the team with the advantage after 5 minutes sends in one person to have a 2-on-1 advantage, and then 2 minutes later it gets evened out, and we carry on until all the 10 people are in the ring. And then we do this thing which I really don't get, and they really hammered this home. They used to mention it up and down, here and there. I gotta sneeze. God damn it. Hang on a second, guys. I gotta sneeze. And we're back. I sneezed. You didn't hear it. I gotta sneeze again. God damn it. Hang on. No, I think we're good. I don't feel the sneeze. I do not feel the sneeze. Well, what are we talking about? Anyway, it's the Bayley and Damage Control team versus Bianca Belair on Bianca Belair's team. It is Bianca Belair, Asuka, Alexa Bliss, Mia Yim, now also known as Mi Chim. She has 2 names now, but she only counts as one person on the team. And the day before on SmackDown, it was revealed that Becky Lynch, the man Becky Lynch, is back, and she is their partner once again. And she is their big surprise. So you have a feeling the good guys are winning this one because Becky Lynch is a huge star and just returned. Actually, anyone making a big return is probably going to win. So on the other team, we have Bayley with Team Kai and Sky, Dakota Kai and Io Sky. Nikki Cross, who's crazy again. She is no longer a superhero. Is she NLSH now? And Rhea Ripley, of course. So they're setting up either Rhea versus Bianca or Rhea versus Becky Lynch. I'm assuming Mania is one of those two matches. Unless they do the 3-way, and I am incorrect, but that is what it is. Oh, I'm not going to go down entrant by entrant with these things. This match was really good. It started off with Dakota Kai and Bianca Belair. So I guess that makes sense. Where the two biggest stars on the babyface team would be bookends. Bianca and Dakota did some great wrestling. I think Io Sky was next, and that makes sense. The tag champs would double up on somebody. And here's the thing: I like Nikki Cross. I'm a fan of Nikki Cross, crazy Nikki Cross from NXT. Nikki Cross, and I'm glad she was back to some extent. But I'm going to sound like a crotchety old man here, and I am crotchety. The first thing Nikki Cross does, she throws in all the weapons, and people are just cheering the objects, and now they're chanting for the tables and the ladders. And it just made everyone in the ring already killing each other, getting slammed into the cage one which way and then another. To me, it just made all of them interchangeable and not needed. And like, why are you paying these people to be superstars when you can set it out? Why are you paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or $1 million a year or whatever when you can go to like Lowe's or Home Depot and blow a couple $100? I don't get it, but that's what they've done. Pardon me. That's what they've done, and it's frustrating because they are working hard. They are beating the crap out of each other. I will say this too, and this was a theme in the men's War Games match later on, and a little bit during the three-way match for the U.S. Championship, which we'll mention later. Um, More so than ever, the mics and the cameras, because they had a camera person, pardon me, it was a camera person with a penis. They had a camera person in the ring. Camera was right up on both the men and women's War Games matches, filming video and clear audio of conversations about what spots we're doing next. Bayley and, I want to say Bianca, it was Bayley and somebody. We're just having a full-on gab fest about what to do next and who's coming when, and you can't blame them. You can't blame them. This is not the time to have the old-timer called in the ring match speech, even though the show would probably be better if they did, but because these things are booked so convoluted and so step-by-step, and there's 14 steps to the finish and yada yada, what are they supposed to do? So I'm not blaming them. I'm just like, why were the cameras right up on them? Good God. It was a lot. One of the Usos and one of the good guys were doing the same thing later on. I can't remember exactly who, but yeah, it was a lot. Like, hey, that's a full on. I mean, people used to complain about John Cena doing it when you'd hear him mumble something, and Michaels too. The thing is, when you wrestle not all your career, I guess technically, but most of your career is WWE. The thing is, you're working in a place where the front row is always 15, 20 feet away, and it's loud. If you start your career in front of 100 people, if you're lucky, and sometimes the barricades, if there are any barricades or whatever, just get shoved right up to the ring apron practically, which is the hardest part of the ring if you didn't know. If you get yourself in that situation, then you quickly learn to start hiding your calls, and it's part of learning to work. It's really what a good worker is. It's not a good athlete who does fancy shit. A good worker does all those things, and a lot of them were just in a situation where it didn't matter. That wasn't a thing you really needed to learn until those weird random days where there's some kind of colossal double cage and there's a camera person with a penis right up in your face with their penis. So, something to think about. Penis. Becky Lynch eventually comes in here, and Becky does get the pin. Becky does her moves. She takes one or two bumps. I think she took Rhea's finish, and I forget. I don't think she kicked out. I think someone broke it up, which makes the most sense. So we're teasing that. What would have happened? And Rhea, I'm pretty sure, entered right before Becky. She was the last one on her team, so they made her as fresh as possible and very dominant. Becky came off the top of the cage. She leg dropped Io and Dakota, who were both on a table, and she pinned Dakota, I'm pretty sure. So everybody was happy, and it was the right thing to do. Some people are saying, where does Damage Control go next? I don't know. What city is Raw in? They go to that city, whatever city it is. I don't know the answer. We'll find out. And that was that. It wasn't bad. This thing ended. I'm including entrances and everything at 5:55 my time, so 55 minutes. The first match was them, which was always the case with Survivor Series. It was always 5 or 6 matches, and you knew each one was taking a chunk of time. Except they were all teams matches. There are only 2 teams matches on this show. Let's move forward. Oh, Finn Balor versus AJ Styles. I loved this, and I bet you a lot of people were bored. I loved it, I loved it, I love it. They took their time, slow build. They had a cage with 10 participants and half of a Home Depot involved. So they just wrestled. And they do the obligatory, there's 90 guys outside the ring. In the middle of the match, they all do their thing at once. I think Dominic interferes, gets his ass kicked. Priest jumps in. Referee doesn't even throw them all out. They just all brawled out away and yada yada. And of course, AJ is the last one to be distracted, so he gives Finn a chance to start his real heat. And AJ wrestled back, hit his finish once, phenomenal forearm, pinned him 1, 2, 3. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Heels can lose, it's fine. Doesn't mean they have to lose their heat. It's not like Finn's been getting beat on Raw for the past 5 weeks. That's Austin Theory, lol. I don't know. So it's fine. What they do on Raw is the real factor that determines the future of Judgment Day, whatever. They didn't lose any heat because Finn lost a big match to a top guy who's AJ Styles. It's fine. They did this thing. Sorry, Finn is working an abdominal stretch, and AJ elbows out of it or breaks out of it somehow. I forget exactly how. Finn hits the ropes. AJ goes for that hip toss. Finn blocks it, hooks right back to the abdominal stretch. I knew these guys were going to do some classic pro wrestling stuff that a lot of people weren't going to pick up, but I noticed it. I loved it. No one did anything for no reason. It was a great time, but AJ got his hand raised. And speaking of things that happened for no reason, Sloppy Blackheart from the famed NXT Legion of Gimmicks 3000, LD 3000. She comes to the ring in a tank with green hair. And Gremlins 2 challenges Ronda Rousey for the blah 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 SmackDown Women's Championship. Let me get this out of the way because this was bothering me all night. And before I forget, the ring announcer, who a lot of people think is great. I'm sure she's a very nice lady, and she was a very good ring announcer once. She's doing the over-the-top male deep voice growl, which she always did a little bit of in NXT, and it was okay because I thought it was not as blatant. But it almost sounds like she's doing it's comical now, and it sounds very fake. And it got worse as the night went on, and it just really bothered me that she sounds like when a female stand-up comedian does her boyfriend or husband's voice. Because we all have that voice, and he's like, "Duh, I'm a man, 30." And the male comedians do it too. Okay, like it's amazing. We all do that stupid voice. We have the voice they do, it's stupid, and they have the voice they do, it's stupid, and yada yada yada. Except they also do the female voice, by the way. But anyway, it sounds like she's doing that voice to introduce the wrestlers. Ronda Rousey, I just want to have sex all the time. Okay. So Ronda Rousey and Shotzi Blackheart had, according to the bylines of the situation, a pro wrestling match. Yikes. This was, even on paper, this was a bad idea. Ronda obviously needs the right opponent to carry her. All her best stuff has always been with Charlotte, or Stephanie McMahon and Triple H for that matter, or Alexa, she can toss around or whatever, or even Nikki Bella, that she can move around and yada yada yada, or Becky Lynch for that matter. Someone who knows what's going on in there. Sloppy, sorry. It was sloppy. Sloppy went for a DDT on the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. Ronda got there about a day and a half later. They did this weird spot where they jumped. Sloppy Blackheart jumped off the barricade, did a high cross onto Ronda, who was standing in front of the front row, and she fell back onto this disconnected front row of chairs with 5 large dudes who all had athletic jackets of some sort. I don't know what sporting team, or maybe they were MMA guys or whatever. But anyway, Sloppy, who weighs 110, 15 pounds, crashes onto Ronda, who's probably like 130, 140. And it knocks down this entire row of five giant dudes who, eh, at the speed of turtle shitting, slowly fell and 18 inches to their doom to the floor. And everyone, the announcer sold it like they just killed five guys. They all just casually took a stroll, like they just leaned a little bit back too far in their lawn chair and eventually touched the grass. It was sad. Ronda taps out Shotzi. Let's move forward. Number 4. Oh no, there's a skit first. First of all, they showed us earlier in the show. They showed Jimmy Uso, telling Roman that Sami Zayn lied to him about talking to Kevin Owens in the night. I think that was on the segment where Jimmy gets lied to by Sami. Was on SmackDown. They replayed it. They have a segment where Jimmy tells Roman, and Roman says, "Don't worry about it. I'm the tribal chief." And tells Heyman to call Sami. Later on, we see Sami in the office by Roman. Sami seemingly convinces Roman, but Roman seems to let him think it's okay, gives him the hug, but Roman has a stern look on his face like they're going to turn on Sami, and like the audience knows something that the character doesn't. Very soap opera-ish. So, they're going to kill Sami in this thing. But that was set up really well. And even though he never said a word in both these segments, Paul Heyman was amazing. His facial expressions told you everything you needed to know. Very interesting. The U.S. Championship was next. Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory challenged Seth Rollins for the U.S. Championship, the champion of the United States. That's right, we don't have presidents anymore, we just have U.S. champions. Who knew? And they compete at Survivor Series, and it's not even the main event, that's the state our country is in. Everyone started wrestling, and I fell asleep. But I watched it the next morning, and this is what happened. Um, Austin Theory won. As convoluted and formulaic as these three ways tend to be, Seth Rollins did an amazing job here of telling everyone what to do and directing traffic. And how do I know that without being in the match? Well, again, the camera picked it up. The camera picked up all sorts of Seth Rollins telling us where to go, and he's landing aircrafts in there, and he's got freight planes, and he's got cargo planes going one way. He's got a commercial aircraft going another. He's landing a private jet at the same time with his orange glow sticks. He was directing all the traffic, and we saw it naked as a jaybird for the whole world to see. Really cool finish. They did a thing where they teased either guy tapping out to the Hurt Lock and getting broken up and everything. Seth Rollins does a superplex thing he likes to do to Austin Theory off the top rope, and even though neither of them sell the superplex and it's silly, Seth goes for that Falcon Arrow, that second half of the superplex, where now he picks him up from the middle of the ring. Pardon me. I'm losing my voice, guys. I did an Instagram reel before this, and I lost my voice. Hold on, don't go anywhere. Oh, that's good water. Okay, it's good water. Lashley gives a spear to Seth, who had Theory in a suplex position, but Lashley, too much momentum, propels himself out of the ring. Theory collapses on top of Seth, 1, 2, 3. Sells up the ramp. Very, very good. It'll be interesting to see Raw, because basically, Austin Theory is now the singles champion of Raw. And the U.S. president by default. So they really talk about course correcting. Good God, with all of Theory's losses since the Money in the Bank and losing the Money in the Bank briefcase, they fixed that good. So, will the people buy it? I think so. I'm pretty positive on it, and I think people, as much it doesn't hurt Seth. They love him. They love singing his song, whatever the hell. They love it. Lashley being pinned here would have looked kind of stupid. So I guess that was your only choice. Seth didn't get beat by one guy flat out, so it'll be fine. And Seth will get some tag team wins and non-title win or something. I don't think they're going to go back with Seth for the U.S. Championship, not anytime soon. But Seth will get his, and Seth will stay over. Don't worry about him. He'll be okay. The main event is next. The men's War Games. And this was what will happen. Um, this was one of those weird circumstances where you didn't see it very often in War Games matches, but the babyfaces had the advantage, which is really not the best way to plan any kind of match. But it did become kind of a running joke and a gag when Dusty Rhodes had it in the late 80s and I guess early 90s. Well, there would have been a few years that they probably just didn't do it in 89 or 90. Did they? 89, they might have done it with the Samoan SWAT team. 90, I can't. Who cares? So, um, what was my point? I got distracted. I was thinking of War Games as now. And this was 30 years, I think, after the 1992 War Games, where Paul Heyman, who was Play Dangerously, managed Dangerous Alliance against Sting Squadron. And I think Larry Zbyszko or Bobby Eaton submitted or surrendered when they got hit in the tricep with a turnbuckle strut. So, okay. I do actually like the rule that if you escape the cage and go to the floor, your team automatically forfeits. I don't know why, but to me, it gives a reason. It gives us a reason to go. It gives the audience a reason to say, well, "Why don't they just?" It just cuts that off. It stops a lot of that. Well, why wouldn't they just? It just kills that. And I think the time will come where someone takes a stupid bump off the cage through 4 tables, and they'll technically lose because they fell off the thing. But I don't know. They'll do that eventually, but hopefully not because it's a lazy finish and someone will die anyway. Is it lazy? No, it's kind of clever, but I'm patting myself on the back, but it's kind of a cop out. Anyway, who started this? Jimmy Uso started, and he started with Pete Dunne or Butch. And Butch is doing the thing. I like the thing where Butch just wrecks your fingers. I knew, I'm going to say I was right. I knew it wasn't going to translate well to WWE audiences because in NXT, the cameras were up close. The announcers spent more time on physical action. But in WWE, working fingers is not a big thing. It's not a huge visual. You can't really see it. You just need to know what's going on. Even in the front row, you can barely tell, let alone, the upper balcony. So, I mean, Jimmy sold it great and gave them something different to do before eventually all the goddamn weapons get in there. And this was interesting, and I'm not going to go entrant by entrant, but this is noteworthy. It seems logical that, wait a minute, Jey Uso started, my bad. Jey Uso and Butch. Jimmy Uso goes to run out of that little shark cage both teams are stuck standing in. Roman Reigns, of course, is on a stool, which is great, as he should be. And he stops Jimmy Uso and says no. And Jimmy Uso's like, what the fuck? Like, again, like Team Kai and Sky in the last one, why wouldn't you have the tag champs dissect someone and maintain an advantage? And Roman sends Sammy in to test him. And I thought, this is cool. This is cool. Okay. They're telling this match, more so than a women's, sorry, had an A to Z story going on with not just the weapons and bullshit. So, and Sammy, of course, everyone except Kevin Owens, Sammy had no problem helping the Usos beat up. And Solo Sikoa gets in there. He was great in his role. Ridge Holland is also there. Very good. Sheamus was in there. People still responded well to him. He's got a bit of a resurgence because they know he's an ass kicker. And they know asses are going to get kicked, and he did, and they did, and it was great. Eventually, I guess it makes sense that Roman's team would not have the advantage. So this way, it means Roman can enter last, like the main event guy. So in a way, it's kind of like, oh, I'm just thinking of this now. But anyway, Owens was the last guy in his team, and then Roman Reigns was next. And Owens was in pants and some Adidas or something. And everyone had a good brawl. Everyone was selling. There's a few obligatory spots that are in WWE style war games we can do without already. The all four or all five members all line up and do the thing. Oh, this was the point I got distracted by earlier. Once the fifth person is in there, not counting the camera person with a penis, they make an announcement. Okay, now that all participants are in, now the War Games match has officially started. They love to hammer it, and they ring a bell too. Ah, I mean, you need the rule to make it more dangerous and make sure people get their money's worth. You need the rule that okay, it can't end till all 10 or all 8, whatever, are in there. But the match hasn't officially. Then what the fuck were we just watching for 20 minutes? I don't know. I don't think that part's really necessary. But that's the standoff can go. I think we're done with that spot. All those Towers of Doom spots where someone's superplexing someone, but people are underneath them, grabbing their thigh or their hip or their dick and nuts for a power bomb. I didn't see any of those. I think the women teased one, but like didn't do it, which is good. I don't think the men did one. I think we're done with that spot. I hope it's really lame. Uh, I hate the backtrack matches, but Io Sky, she did a dive off or I think a moonsault off the cage, and thankfully she only did it onto two women who were her opponents and hit them both because she went in the middle of them. Her accuracy with that is pretty good when it's off the top of something. Um, and she only hit her opponents, and she did connect with them, and there's two of them to catch her, and they both fell down. That to me is fine. It's when you do a high cross body and six of them fall down, it gets to be ridiculous. And I think Nikki Cross did a high cross body. She did a high herself body onto like one or two people, and then six of them had fallen down earlier on. So it was kind of goofy. But I think the Io Sky one was the one that I liked because it was just her opponents that she was taking out. So good on them. I don't remember the men doing any of those, jump off the cage and big dive onto people. The table did come into play. Somebody eventually was speared through it. Roman put someone through it. I don't remember. I think it was Ridge Holland. I think so. So there's a lot of back and forth, as there should be. And they're teasing Sami Zayn. What is he going to do? Sami eventually is face to face with. Oh, wait. Sami breaks up a pin. There's Sheamus hits a bro kick on Roman. Sorry, I'm rambling off here. I'm trying to remember this as best as I can. Paint the picture of a thing maybe you've already seen. Sami shows his loyalty to the bloodline by breaking up a pin when Sheamus hits the bro kick on Roman, and Roman kind of gives him a nod, like because Roman knew his number was up, and then now Roman trusts him more, and then Roman faces off with Sami, and Sami, what did Sami do? Sami faces off with Kevin Owens and eventually low blows Kevin Owens. He hits him in his testicles, which allows Jimmy Uso to hit a super kick, and Sami sets him up and offers Kevin Owens to Jimmy Uso for a splash off the top, which Jimmy hits, and no, Jey Uso. God damn it, I keep doing it. Jey Uso, after all his bickering and his fighting with Sami for these couple of months, he gets the pin in the War Games over Kevin Owens thanks to Sami Zayn turning on his friend. And now the Bloodline trusts Sami. Sami passed the test. And Jey Uso, the biggest pop of this match, Jey Uso hugs Sami Zayn. All that table, chair bullshit, and it's a hug that gets the biggest pop. So this is why we learn how to work and why we learn how to tell stories. It's because you don't get hurt doing a hug. And the Bloodline celebrates, and that was that. The Survivor Series. Very good show. The Survivor Series traditionally, especially in its earlier years, always struggled with being a theme pay-per-view that didn't have the main title on the line. Of course, in later years, it wasn't too much later, they would change that. Hell, in 94, they changed hands with it. And then 95, and 96, they changed, 97, they changed hands. Well, it was 4 in a row. 98, 5 in a row. What the hell was 99? I think it was a three-way. Austin got hurt. I think that's 6 Survivor Series in a row they changed hands on a damn thing. Anyway, and then just has become back and forth. But with Roman in the last year having both championships, We've had a bunch of pay-per-views with no title defense, but we still saw the champion on this show. And I was satisfied because I felt like a big major story was advanced. The Bloodline didn't just beat him flat. And the relationship between Sami and the Bloodline, which is the thing we've cared most about for all these months, the relationship changed or it moved forward. So something happened, even though a title was on the line. We saw a title change. The big Raw Singles Championship was changed. So you can't say stuff didn't happen on this show. So I'm very happy with it. Thank you, Bob Squad. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. I know this wasn't exciting or very funny. I'm really just kind of recapping and chiming in some thoughts. This wasn't one of my more hilarious, hardest part of the rings. But I thank you who've been watching. I know you guys have been watching my son Bob Shorts, the Go-To Motu. Go-To Motu seems to be a bigger hit than some of my previous offerings with the people. About every week you get one, sometimes two, 5 or 6 minute mini He-Man episodes. I don't know, episode 7 should come out very, very soon. I was busy this weekend. And you saw episode 6 come out Friday, Saturday. So, I don't know how many episodes the season's going to be. I don't know. Could be 10, could be 12, could be 14. When I think we've hit a solid mark of, okay, this is a good time to stop, then I'll do it. But I don't think we're quite there yet. Again, only 7 is coming out soon, so at least 10, probably 13, 14 of the things. But if the last one is coming up, I'll tell you. Okay? I'm doing it. It's very hard to build the worlds for these guys, and it's a little tricky sometimes. So I'm trying to be as creative with the thing as I can. And also, I got to remind myself I'm not doing scenes. I'm not giving you a scene of a big story. I'm not giving you a scene of an episode every week. I'm giving you a mini episode. So these 5-6 minute episodes, with the exception of the 2 sofa ones, which we're done with that, by the way. With the exception of the 2 sofa ones, I'm trying to change the scenery, have it at least 2 locations, usually 3 locations in an episode. I'm trying to move you around a little bit, move the show around, and not just, okay, with the exception of the 2 sofa ones, we're not just going to stare at one background the entire time. So that's what's happening. Keep your eye out for that. Fun boxing is always around the corner, you know that. I thank you, Bob Squad. Let's do the theme song. The hardest part of the ring. Hey, the hardest part of the ring. Sometimes you go over that top rope and you bang your head on the ring apron. Why do you do that? That's when you feel like a big dope. And they're the worst bumps you can be taking. Oh, it's the hardest part of the ring. Hey, the hardest part of the ring. Now double claps. Clap, 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 clap. The hardest part of the ring. The hardest part of the ring. Ba-da-ba-da.